Every new camper is bound to make mistakes that will make their first camping experience a little bit less pleasant than they expected. I'm here to tell you some mistakes that I've experienced and I've seen other people experience so that hopefully on your first few camping trips you don't experience these mistakes. But I will say that even experienced campers do make mistakes like this and do have little mishaps along the way as well. Let me know in the comments if you have more mistakes than what I list in this video to share with everybody to learn from. We're all about growth here. Camping is not about being perfect and comfortable all the time, but we can make it a little bit better with some tips and advice along the way. Not bringing enough layers can be a huge mistake for your camping trip. Not having warm clothes or a rain layer or nice dry clothes to sleep in can really put a damper on things, especially if you're sleeping in the wilderness and you don't have access to a camper or an RV to sleep in. I bring a stocking cap and mittens on almost every camping trip, even if it's in the middle of July, because sometimes in the morning or in the evening you do get a little bit chilly and it's nice to have an extra layer. It's better to bring layers than to just bring a big parka so that you can add layers and subtract layers as you need them. I find it really important for me to have a good rain jacket and good rain pants because you never know when it's gonna rain, and I typically when I go camping do run into rain. It's just my thing. Not bringing the correct water supplies is another mistake that many people make. You need to bring a water vessel and a water bottle at the very minimum. Even if you're camping at a state park where they have accessible drinking water that you can just fill up your containers with, you want to have a nice sized container to fill with water that closes and seals so that you can bring that back to your campsite and refill your water bottle, use it to cook, use it to wash dishes as needed. If you just have a water bottle, you're going to be going back and forth and filling it up quite a bit. And if you forget your water bottle and only have the vessel, then if you're going out on a hike, what are you going to bring? Just like a cup of water? That's not going to work. So you need a water bottle and a water vessel that's going to hold your water. If you're going backwoods camping, for example, the Boundary Waters or somewhere else in a wilderness area, you're going to want to bring a water filter as well. You can bring different types of filters. There's many out there. Do your research, find one that will work for you. You can also buy water tablets that you put in your water that kills everything in there. Even if I'm going wilderness camping, I like to bring some type of water vessel still so that you're not filtering water every single time you need it to drink or to cook. Don't forget about water. We're so used to having water at our fingertips everywhere we go and not needing to really worry about lugging water around with us, but when we're camping, especially in the wilderness, you need to have your water source thought through before you go. This next one I'm guilty of. You do not want to go camping without testing your equipment, whether it is new equipment or used equipment or equipment that you've had but have had stored away for about a year since last season. Test out your equipment before you go. This doesn't mean you have to sleep outside, camp in your tent overnight, practice in your backyard, although that could be fun, but you do want to open everything up, set it up, make sure A, it's in good condition, B, you know how to use it and how to set it up, and C, that there's no new damage. I have been on a camping trip in the Boundary Waters before where we brought a tent that we got from a garage sale and we didn't set it up and didn't check it out before going, so we're out in the wilderness, no other options besides this one tent that we brought, and we go to set it up. And we made it work for the trip, but it wasn't pleasant and we didn't sleep well or really at all. That could have been easily avoided if we would have just set up our tent before we went out camping. Another thing you want to check for is make sure you don't have any mouse damage on your stored things that you left over the winter. Make sure that you have all of the pieces you will need. Maybe you bought a tent but it didn't come with a rain fly or something like that. Set it up so you just get an idea of what you've got. I've heard of people buying brand new sleeping pads and then when they went to use them, they deflated and didn't hold air. You want to test these things before you go camping with them, especially in the beginning of the season. You also just want to be comfortable using it. So if you have a new tent or a new device that you bought for your camping experience, make sure you know how it functions before you're out in the wilderness, away from cell service. You can't look it up anymore and you need it at that point. Even your water filter, test out your water filter before you go so you make sure you have the filter inside. You didn't just get a water filter set up without the filter inside. These things are so easily avoidable and I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I've experienced or I've seen other people experience. Not bringing garbage bags is so common. You want to bring some form of garbage bag, whether that's an actual like garbage bag, or it's a large Ziploc bag that you're gonna put all your garbage in and zip it up, or even bringing Tupperware for food that you didn't finish if you want to save your leftovers. If you're camping in an RV, that's easy enough to put away into your fridge. If you're camping out in the wilderness, a lot of things you can keep at least for the day and snack on them throughout the day if you didn't finish your meal. That way we're not throwing it away or having to bury it underground to prevent other animals from getting at it. We never want to leave our leftover food out and about anywhere, even at a state park, because other animals will find it. We don't want to create unhealthy eating habits for the animals around us. Also, don't forget toilet paper, because whether you're going somewhere where there should be toilet paper, there still might not be, or you're going somewhere where there's not going to be toilet paper, just bring a roll of toilet paper. Not preparing your food before your camping trip is a mistake, especially if you don't enjoy the cooking process, like me. Before going camping, I like to cut up all of my fruits and vegetables that I'm going to be eating, as long as it's not something that's going to spoil or change, like an apple. We don't want it to turn brown, and that's just as easily eaten without being prepared. But anything like green peppers or celery or carrots, I like to peel and cut those up before I go camping so that I don't have to spend time doing that while I'm out camping, and I can just relax a little bit more. This one's a little bit up to you. If you really enjoy cooking and think that cutting your vegetables out in nature sounds like fun, maybe it is for you, but for the rest of us, it's so much better to prepare your food ahead of time. If you find my videos helpful, press the like button and make sure to subscribe. It really helps out my channel and I appreciate it a lot. Even if you're going backpacking or canoe camping and you're going to be bringing things that are not fresh, maybe like oatmeal packs, what you can do to prepare your food beforehand is to take your oatmeal packs out of the box. Get rid of that box before you're even out in the wilderness. Pack those packets maybe in a flat Ziploc bag, then they're more waterproof, it's not as bulky, and you have the Ziploc bag that you can use for trash once you're out in the wilderness. Not having somewhere to sit is a big mistake, especially if you have back problems like me. It's worth it to bring a chair. I know we often are bombarded with the idea of pack light, minimalist packing, only bring what you need, but it's so important to bring a camping chair unless you really like sitting on logs or sitting on the ground or sitting on a stump. If that's you, do that. But I prefer to bring a chair because I find it to be a lot more comfortable. I can set it up anywhere. You can get small, lightweight, portable ones. Don't skimp on these. Don't buy the cheap version, because you want a good chair for all of these random rugged places you're gonna set it up. If you buy a cheap one, you're probably gonna fall out of your chair. It's also not gonna last very long. So this next one, you can't always avoid. Sometimes it's just that's what the circumstances are. But if at all possible, arrive at your campsite before dark. Hours before dark. You don't want to be setting up camp in the dark. You want to get everything situated before nightfall so that you can relax around the campfire or with your friends and hang out without having to set up everything and use your flashlight and forget things and leave things out, and then if it rains then things were left out because it was dark. And there's so many things that can go wrong if you're setting up camp in the dark. Even if you're really comfortable with your gear, it's always just a lot nicer to set up in the daylight. I've had an experience recently where I couldn't avoid arriving at my camp setup before dark. So I arrived at the campsite, it's already getting dark, and I was setting up this huge canvas bell tent for the first time. I didn't know how to set it up. I did some minor research, but I didn't set it up ahead of time. I did not listen to my former advice in this video. Always set your gear up ahead of time. Had I done that, this wouldn't have been as bad, but I didn't set up my tent ahead of time and it was dark out, so I was really stressed out. I knew I still needed to gather firewood because it was winter. It was about 10 degrees outside. It was dark out. I wasn't super familiar with the area, so I didn't know where to get the firewood. I wasn't familiar with the tent. I didn't know how to set it up, so it took a little bit extra time to set it up than it should have. In the end, it really wasn't that bad. We got the tent up, we got our firewood, and it was fine, but it was a lot of unnecessary stress that could have been avoided had we been able to arrive earlier. So again, sometimes you can't avoid this one, but if at all possible, plan to arrive at your campsite before it gets dark out. Some of the mistakes that I've experienced have made for the best camp stories for future camping experiences, sitting around the campfire and talking about the time our tent flooded, or the time we forgot the tent poles, or the time we brought the wrong tent poles, or the time we forgot a compass, or things like that. It's still not fun to experience, and you want to have a good time, especially if you're a beginner camper. You don't want to have such a bad experience that you don't want to go again. I'm trying to prepare you ahead of time so that when you go camping, you enjoy it and you can get out there and have a lot of fun. article. Not bringing enough layers for your camping trip can be an